All right, guys. Hope you had a good weekend. Here's a look at our kind of week ahead weather. It's beautiful out. It has been beautiful, but we need some rain. So our Alabama weather headlines here as we approach really mid-October here. We're going to stay dry, which is not good given the current drought situation. We'll have cool nights, warm afternoons, big temperature spreads throughout the day, but there is good news with respect to the rain. It looks like it will be here potentially by the weekend. So let's walk through what we've got going on here currently. I think it's interesting. Our lows have dipped into the 40s the last couple of nights. Model data hasn't really picked up on 40s, and a lot of that has to do with, model data is good at looking at a lot of different variables. Sometimes, given the surface conditions, it doesn't pick up well. So this is a look at our low temperatures this morning, and a lot of these were going 53, 54 in central Alabama, upper 50s across the Wiregrass in southwest Alabama, but given how dry we overachieved, got even cooler than that with temperatures dipping down into the 40s. First time since April for some, early May for others. Current temperatures now, big warm up 82 at Birmingham, 81 in Troy, 80 in Huntsville. Hamilton, Gadsden still showing 70, same in Auburn at 78. But again, upper 70s, low 80s, low dew points, not too bad. Pretty quiet from a synoptic perspective across the southeast and the Ohio Valley. There is a low, a non tropical low, moving up the Carolina coastline, the Atlantic coastline. That'll bring some decent rains to the mid Atlantic, but nothing here. In fact, this is helping to reinforce a high pressure by giving us that northerly flow, which is associated with some cooler air. We do have some cold air across the country. We have a freeze warning across the Dakotas, and even a winter storm warning, I believe, or winter weather advisory. So, winter trying to approach for some areas in the mountains, but we are far from that here across Alabama. So, what's next for us? Well, this, as I mentioned, the system will stay well to the east. This is going to move up the mid Atlantic and eventually New England. This will be a good rainmaker for a lot of places, but as far as providing any relief here, no doing with that. So I want to look at our upper air pattern here because this is a great storyteller for what's happening from a kind of a regional perspective. So you see what's happening here to start the week. We have that ridge across South Texas, the Southern Plains, and it kind of sits in place here as we go to the midpoint in the week. Notice our winds. They're going to be northerly. A northerly wind suppresses the return of moisture, and that'll keep our rain chances low. It'll also keep our dew points, humidity levels, water in the atmosphere will be very limited. And eventually, we'll see this ridge, this high pressure, lose its influence on the southeast. Now, we will have a weak ridge with the remnants of that high across the southeast by late week, and this is going to prime us for our next potential rain change. You'll notice that troughing across the upper plains there. That is going to be associated with a surface low and cold front that will extend from really the Ohio Valley down to the Gulf Coast, and it's going to bring us our best chance of rain in quite some time. Saturday, that'll begin to approach. By Sunday, I think we have better rain chances, and this will dive to the south. In fact, really good southerly progression of this upper level low, very cold air aloft, and that should bring some good rains to New England, the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and hopefully us here in the southeast as we need it. So let's go low temperatures to start the week. We'll be in the 50s once again on Monday morning. Highs on Monday afternoon, going to once again reach the 80s. I think we will outkick coverage in terms of model data. So what you see here is kind of some adjusted highs. And again, we'll be looking at warm afternoons, cool nights. Yet a lot of that having to do with the product of a very dry soil. Water by nature is a very good transporter and insulator of heat. So when we have a wet surface, heat is held in at night and it's kept in check in the afternoon. So you may have a 60-degree morning temperature and an 80-degree afternoon temperature. You remove the water, which we don't have much at the surface, and you see a much bigger temperature swing. And that's why I think we will stay in the 50s much of the week. We'll continue to warm Tuesday afternoon. I have mid 80s for much of the state. Might have a few scattered low 80s across North Alabama, but in general, afternoons are warm. So we'll jump ahead to the weekend. This is a look at model data by Saturday. And there's that system I talked about, cold front extending from the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast. And as that approaches, we will likely see warmer morning lows, more moisture in the atmosphere, and a southerly wind. You can see our winds here on the map coming in from the Gulf, and that's a good thing. That'll bring back that moisture, that return flow that will help us to see rain. So some spotty showers by late Saturday, Sunday night. The timing of this might very well change. This is way out in advance, and that upper level trough and the surface system is yet to develop. So once it does, we'll have a better idea of timing. But that's pretty good looking categorized precipitation by Sunday afternoon. That gives me hope that we'll see some decent rains here across the southeast, across Alabama, and this will be out of here by Sunday evening. It looks like at least most models agree with that. Others put it into Monday. Either way, rain totals hopefully beneficial. The WPC is kind of more conservative on the numbers, and no problem with that. But we still just don't know the intensity of the system. Will the front extend to the Gulf Coast? Will there be enough energy there to get rain? Yet to be seen. But even a tenth of an inch to quarter of an inch of rain would certainly be helpful. All right, as we look at the drought monitor situation, again, this was sent out on Thursday. It was surveyed last Tuesday. So just for those of you who missed it, up near places like Florence, in northern Alabama along the Tennessee Valley, kind of the best scenario right now. And you get down to the Black Belt region, south of Tuscaloosa, Green Hill counties, down by the Demopolis Lock and Dam. That's where we have that extreme category, or that level 4 out of 5 drought. And it extends all the way down to the dry conditions, or the moderate drought extends all the way down to the wiregrass. So rain would be welcome, I think, to say the least. Tropical update here. Things have really wound down. We have the remnants of Jerry. One area to watch, but when you see a curvature like this, that will be nowhere near any sort of land. There's that feature. You can kind of pick it out there, out in the far eastern Atlantic. And then, of course, there's the remnants of Jerry. Not going well for Jerry there, as it's going to fizzle out and really be a non-story. So when we look at the tropical activity across the Atlantic Basin, we are here. We are now well past the peak of tropical season. And I don't really, a gut feeling, again, this is not a forecast from any entity, but when you start to see a setup like this, a lot of fronts, troughs moving into the southeast, I don't expect the tropics to pick up in any sort of way. Again, once we get into November, I believe we've only had about 9 maybe or 7 landfalling U.S. hurricanes in the history of, documented history. So things really begin to wind down. So that's a look at, forecast discussion here for the week ahead. Dates 13th through the 19th, 18th, 17th. But pretty quiet. Hopefully we'll get that weekend rain and bring some beneficial water to the surface. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you next time.